Okay, just kind of going over your first swing here. I just put weight over here as an example. You can kind of see that your shoulders like to get a couple degrees open. Stance line, knees, everything is otherwise square. You're too bent over to address, and your knees are too straight. Now the problem with that is that if they're too straight, they're not going to have anything to push off of. So we'll kind of look at the whole entire motion here. That's your hands a little, it's a little low. You get a little inside today, but it's more about spacing in the elbows than anything. You can see the left arm still gets a touch too inside than normal. But because you're so bent over, your hips and knees look like they over-rotate instead of just pivot and pitch. You get to the top. This is kind of an issue that we're going to tackle because club face angles and how this loads is pretty important. So this gets a touch behind right in here, just a touch, and then the face angle gets pretty closed in relation to the path. So basically you're going to hit a lot of overdraws. Now the deal that I see, this is what we're talking about. We're not really, the positions, where you need to be, but you get a little too much of this Ricky Fowler action where things get a little twisted, and it's just as important about having positions that are great, but a lot of this has to do with sequencing. So if you look at Grant, your elbows start to separate, and the right shoulder starts to work this way into the ball instead of around on the arc, so to speak, because the shoulders have their own arc, as does the elbow, does the hip. So when you come into the ball, your things still get a little twisted, and you lose your ability to thrust. So things get kind of bunched up. So you'll kind of see the difference here as you come through it. So the right knee's already kind of flailing, trying to go around, and stuff doesn't like to straighten out, which is that thrusting piece. Also note the face likes to close, and swing slightly out off the circle, and a lot of your shots, unless you're hitting more of a push, trying to push the ball out there more, you start to hit overdraws. So anyway, that was kind of the big one originally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in another swing from the caddy view. This is the front view, and this is before. And it's really good. It's just like I said, things get a little bunchy, and how to address your hips could be maybe a touch more forward at address. At P4, hips are a little bit more back. You have good extension of the spine here, so things look nice. But because of the arms and where things get, you get a ton of lag. So it looks like the legs and the knees and the hips are out racing the order of the arms. So now this is where it's really evident, where you start to see your elbows start to separate as you come in. So things stop going forward, elbows get separated, and it's a lot like, not that you look like Vijay Singh, but that's what Vijay Singh used to do. And then things just don't straighten out. Okay, so you can kind of see that. So we'll go back to here and erase that. Give you an example. So at the top, kind of see the extension, the hips a little bit more forward, not the head should be in the middle, and then you start seeing the difference in how the arms start to work. So you can see this is already starting to turn away too fast in relation to how much forward it's going. So coming to the ball, you can see what the elbows start to do. It's pretty close. So a lot of this is just sequencing, because you already know what the alignments are supposed to look like. But then this gets a little, in here, this gets a little unstable. So, alright, so we're going to pull up the next one. Alright, so this is one of the later ones. After making a couple changes, you can see what we did with your posture is we got this more straight and the neck more down, and a little bit more knee flex in here. Okay. Now you go to the top of your swing. Notice I don't have a tripod today. and didn't really work on elbow separation so much. Now this is before we worked on the club face. Okay, so I'm going to bring that one in. This is with the club face. You can kind of see the difference. Okay, so a little bit different club face, and this is also with a little bit of a pause. So the pause at the top is going to make the change of direction a little bit more subtle. I don't normally like to see people pause, but in your case right now, just so that you can get the sequencing down, we're going to have a little bit more of a pausing at the top. Okay, so you can kind of see that this gets a little bit more shallower, the club head, and your axis doesn't tilt back, so that you can use the rotational piece and the thrusting pattern through the ball. That's why a lot of your balls were going a lot higher, and then you can see how the face just starts, getting a lot more turned over there, opposed to here. It's just marginal. These are marginal things, really. And we are going to go, I think this is the right one. Look at your driver. Yeah, so this was kind of the feel of the pause. And then the sequence piece. Now here's what normally happens. So this is just, you start spinning, and now you look at your left arm gets away from the left shoulder. It should be straight down. And then this is the right one. A little too far in there at P3. Okay, we'll work on that later this week. A lot of that is the hips and everything starts leveling out, and this doesn't straighten enough, the hip doesn't come up enough, and so things just kind of get a little long. And also this face, we aren't concerned with it with the driver yet, but we will be, because that's not a thing we want to do, and we want to pause too, because that thing just starts downloading. Now, we're working basically with this on the knees, how you gotta start straightening. Okay, actually that was a good swing, at least a good ball. It was launched. Okay, but really, these are some of the later swings. So much better. Yeah, well, so much better. Face is better there. Right through. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense. The big one, the big piece, we'll kind of run through this again, is the setup, posture at address, a little more knee flex towards the toes, tuck the hips under, chin down, a little taller in the back, and then as you go back, elbow spacing is super important. At the top, you're going to feel like you have a little bit of a pause. You're going to maintain your wrist angles so the face doesn't get too shut. And on the downswing, we're going to try to work on just transferring and not spinning, just transferring. Okay, forward, so the arms come straight down underneath the shoulders, and then from there you're just going to work on your thrusting pattern. Boom, when you come through. And that's what we're going to work on right now. And then do that for a week, and see how it kind of goes. Take some video, go over your structure, make sure you're just working on your structure. Make sure that also that we're getting into hitting a lot of different shots. We're not just trying to do one stock shot all the time. I want you to hit some different shots, different heights. So it kind of brings a little more awareness to where the club is, and I want you to exaggerate some of the feels of right and wrong too, like we're working on. Okay? So I hope all's well. Keep it up.